Tarkir, a plane of tumultuous violence. Its history has been written and rewritten, forged in dragonfire and cast in blood. It has at times been a land of soaring winged beasts, at times a land of duplicitous khans, but always a land roiled by ambition's consequence. In a time now lost, Tarkir's dragons died out, and from their bones arose 5 great clans, whose khans carved the plain with fortunes shifting as desert sands. Conflict was constant between them, connivance rare. The khans moved against another to claim land and glory. Their character, their conviction, and their reverence towards the ancient form of the dragon shaped the khanates under their rule, bestowing upon each clan a distinct worldview, unique strengths, and unforeseen weaknesses. One such clan embraced the savagery of nature, and through great strength of will, sojourned to the frozen peaks and wildlands at the very edge of the earth. They are a rugged folk, austere in their devotion to ancestral knowledge. They dominate through force. They tame a realm as rigid and dangerous as themselves. They are the Temur. Though they live in a time that has not seen dragons for ages, the clans of Tarkir are exposed to their memories through ossified remains and distant wisdom. Each clan views the dragon as a sublime being and fully embraces one aspect of its character. People of the Temur frontier represent the claw of the dragon, symbol of its wild savagery. They value strength, the dragon's prerogative to take whatever it demands above all else, and as a testament to their own, extend the frontier ever outward, taming Tarkir's frozen tundras and alpine forests. Their respective savage nature strongly tethers the Temur to green mana. Though in constant conflict with their environs, the clan relies on nature for sustenance, companionship, and wisdom, seen in the card Feed the Clan. They partake in great hunts led by a master tracker known as the Hunt Caller to both replenish food stores and prove physical might. Heroic feats of strength earn Temur renown, and their confrontational temperament is seen in cards like Roar of Challenge, which shows one Temur warrior standing alone against a horde of enemies. And most famously in the card Savage Punch, illustrating an epic brawl between a Temur and a wild bear. The connection to green mana's strength is mechanically highlighted with the keyword Ferocious, seen on many Temur cards. This grants an additional boon when there is a creature with power 4 or greater, a symbol of savage might. Green mana's ferocity is stoked by the hot fires of red mana. Red represents aggression, action, and explosive emotion. Temur draw on the strength of mountains, on the steaming magma of volcanoes to further supplement their instinctual urges and augment flaming magic. Red mana stirs hearts and prepares bodies for the great hunts of the Temur, its conflagration lifting bestial emotion to ever greater heights as the mind is singularly focused on the violence and bloodshed of the hunt. We see this on display in Temur Battle Rage. The sweltering volcanic flames are adeptly wielded by Temur shamans and battle mages to unleash destruction upon foes, highlighted in cards such as Crater's Claw and Volcanic Visions. The natural element of fire bolsters the strength of the forest, but these licking flames are cooled and tempered by blue mana's embrace. Blue represents calculation, ponderance, and wisdom. It's the color of intention, of foresight, that on its surface conflicts with the Temur's hot savagery. But green and blue share in the reverence of nature. They see wisdom and beauty in the world, and those who accept both colors view the land as the greatest teacher, warning of past mistakes and shepherding the future. Blue is present among snow-capped peaks, mountain glaciers, and frigid streams found in abundance along the Temur frontier. Shamans use blue to fuel incantations whispered in seclusion that grant insight and foresight from ancestral spirits of the surrounding lands. Mages, meanwhile, channel Arctic blasts to freeze foes seen in Crippling Chill and Icy Blast, whose flavor text reads, "Do not think the sand or the sun will hold back the breath of winter." Mist magic is equally used to repel enemies or disrupt dangerous spells with counter magic, which we can see illustrated in the cards Force Away and Stubborn Denial, the flavor text of which summarizes the Temur despite their use of blue mana. The Temur have no patience for subtlety. When combined, these colors create a clan of cunning temerity, one that survives in the harshest lands through understanding of nature, through its reverence, and through embracing its bestial savagery. The admiration of the landscape is central to Temur culture. It is hardship, but it is also sustenance. We hear it in the flavor text of Frontier Mastodon. Each bronze disc on its harness is an offering from a young Temur hunter, a sign of respect to the spirits of the wild, as well as in that of Glacial Stalker. Have you spent a winter high in the mountains, where the ice walks and speaks to the wind? It is not a place for those who have not learned respect. But contemplation of mind doesn't yield complacency of body for the Temur. This clan has within its ranks Tarkir's fiercest warriors. Outfitted with large clubs, axes, and occasionally nothing more than their own brawn, Temur are relentless on the battlefield. They charge into the fray riding atop large saber-toothed cats seen in Temur war shaman, or running alongside grizzled, ferocious bears whom they view as close allies, illustrated in Bear's Companion. The Temur frontier begins in the deep valleys at the base of the domineering Kalsisma mountain range and extends into the remoteness beyond. The clan ranges and hunts across the inhospitable Kalsisma for much of the year, but when deep winter arrives, it's accompanied by frost even the Temur can't endure, and so bivouacs are pitched in the protective rim of the Karakik Valley. From their frozen redoubts, Temur trackers hunt for sustaining game, testing their strength against ferocious mammoths, bears, and other predators that stalk through white snows. To rejuvenate body and spirit, many Temur journey to hot spring caves warmed by seismic activity, or to the parlous rims of active volcanoes, one of the few locations on the frontier where winter's icy grip thaws. Kalsisma's peaks whisper on strong winds. They hold secrets of the past and arcane wisdom for Temur mystics who sojourn through dangerous paths. We see this beautifully illustrated in the card Seek the Horizon, whose flavor text reads, "The Temur call the flickering lights the path of whispers, believing that they lead the way to ancestral knowledge." Kinship is the foundational pillar of Temur society. When death is ever present and harm closely courted, deep trust is imperative, and blood binds Temur as iron into familial clans. Families are led by the fiercest warriors, who value the welfare of his or her own more so than the greater clan. Despite this, families view others as siblings, companions in life's great struggle, and continue the motif of familial dynasticism, swear fealty to the Khan. The Temur Khan is viewed as the parent of all clans. Their word carries the weight of superiority, and they administer conflict and cooperation between families to ensure peace. The first father of the Temur is Surak, a noble leader of impressive frame, steadfast conviction, and unimpeachable physical prowess. Surak has cemented his position as Khan by jointly claiming the title of Dragon Claw, an accolade recognizing its holder as the strongest warrior, the greatest fighter of the Temur. Surak embodies bestial savagery and inspires his clan through actionable example. With kinship acting as bedrock of Temur society, the clan has developed reverence towards ancestry and an appreciation of the bloodlines from which they descend. Temur hold many superstitions over death, spirituality, and ancient knowledge. Chief among them is the belief that voices swirl around them, hushed remonstrations or benevolent guidance emitted by ancestral spirits trapped within ice, frozen in time. This empowers shamans and mages within the clan who use mystic arts to decipher such pleas, and are viewed by clansmen as living links bridging the chasm to the past. We see their mysticism on display in cards like Shamanic Revelation and Whisperer of the Wilds. Shamans are known as whisperers trained in the subtle skills of time manipulation. They perform secret rituals, anchoring them to points in the past and bestowing upon them visions of their ancestors. The practice of whispering was long ago taught to the Temur by the infinitely wise and powerful spirit dragon Ugin. Whisperers are held in high esteem by all the clan, and through their revelations the Khan is advised on how best to lead his people. Although the Temur are a predominantly human clan, they count among their allies many creatures and races that have successfully endured nature's hardship along the frontier. As mentioned, they use large cats and bears as mounts or hunting companions, as seen in the card Temur Ascendancy. Temur have also ceremoniously adopted into their family several Ainok, savage hound folk that fight with abandon and know the ways of survival in unforgiving lands. We see them illustrated in Inox Survivalist. A race of woolly elephant folk known as Loxodons also populate the frontier and ally with the Temur. They represent raw strength and the stunning beauty of nature, which is on display in cards like Avalanche Tusker and Woolly Loxodon, whose flavor text reads, "Even among the hardiest warriors of the Temur, Loxodons are respected for their adaptation to the mountain snows." As a clan so in tune with their environs and so connected to the past, Temur have great respect for elementals and spirits that wander the tundra. Elementals are manifestations of nature's will. To those who live harmoniously with the earth, they are powerful allies. To those who would deface it, implacable foes. Likewise, spirits are called upon to wage corporeal combat, to invigorate the living through great boons, or to fuel powerful fire and counter magic. Humans and their auxiliary races meld into a formidable clan whose ferocity gives pause to any would-be foe. For the Temur, the time of Khans has passed into impossible myth, this branch of reality severed by the actions of Sarkhan Vol. Their fate, much like that of the other clans, has been reforged, their new reality dominated by soaring, voracious, and savage dragons no longer extinct. With the invigoration of dragon storms on Tarkir, the clans found themselves not merely engaged in intrigue amongst another, but in a struggle for existence against rapacious, implacable dragon broods. With the subsequent Khan fall, the clans were swallowed and subsumed by draconic overlords, their ultimate fates dependent on the whims of such powerful creatures. The Temur fought valiantly against the basest, most aggressive of broods led by Dragon Lord Atarka. Much blood was spilled, but the survivors of the battered and scattered Temur families saved themselves from annihilation by offering up kills of their great hunts to placate the ever-hungry Atarka. As remnants of the Temur were gathered into Atarka's fold, they wholly embraced the savagery of their overlord. Slowly, the ponderance and ties to ancient wisdom found in blue mana were snuffed out by the violent fires of red and green. They no longer cared for their connection to the past, nor worried about what the future held. They lived only for the hunt, for natural strength and aggression manifested in their Dragon Lord. The Whisperers, the shamans of the Temur, grew unnecessary, conspicuous, and their magic seen as a danger to Atarka's brood. They were shunned or slain in droves, a pogrom that destroyed the memory of Temur, the wisdom of ages past, and the strong connection to blue mana. The shattered remnants practice in secret, which we see in the card Circle of Elders. The flavor text reads, "They whisper of an ancient hero who saved the dragons of their world." In the Day of Dragons, the last vestiges of the Temur Khanate have sworn fealty to Atarka and her brood. They respect her power, revere her bestiality, and whisper prayers to honor her as they lead hunts through frontier wilderness in hopes of gaining the recognition and gift of feeding her directly or another of her hungry brood. It's a precarious situation, but one of mutual symbiosis, as Atarka's ferocity largely protects her supplicants from deadly machinations foisted upon them by other dragon lords. Temur, a name that in one reality harkens the strength of nature in the wilds, in another, a whisper of a dream long forgotten. This clan strives through adversity, respects the natural order, and seeks wisdom from their ancestors. They are of the earth, a foe strong as the grizzled sabertooth, relentless as the blizzard snows, as fiery as the volcanic peaks. They are a people that revere the dragon's claw as a symbol of savagery, embody its deadly aspect, and demand respect worthy of the name Temur. Tarkir, a plane of tumultuous violence. Its history has been written and rewritten, forged in dragonfire and cast in blood. It has at times been a land of soaring winged beasts, at times a land of duplicitous Khans, but always a land roiled by ambition's consequence. In a time now lost, Tarkir's dragons died out, and from their bones arose 5 great clans whose Khans carved the plain with fortunes shifting as desert sands. Conflict was constant between them, connivance rare. The Khans moved against another to claim land and glory. Their character, their conviction, and their reverence towards the ancient form of the dragon shaped the Khanates under their rule, bestowing upon each clan a distinct worldview, unique strengths, and unforeseen weaknesses. One such clan embraced the dragon's cunning, symbolized by its piercing eye. Their purpose? To reach the heightened state of being offered through enlightenment, to respect the beauty of nature, to temper vanity and conceit, to control the mind through rigid discipline. They are a clan of wanderers and mystics, of sages who impart wisdom, of warrior monks with mastery over martial arts. They lie secreted away in high mountain monasteries to contemplate life's deep truths and uncover the infinite paths towards enlightenment. Theirs is the Jeskai Way. Though they live in a time that has not seen dragons for ages, the clans of Tarkir are exposed to their memories through ossified remains and distant wisdom. Each clan views the dragon as a sublime being and fully embraces one aspect of its character. The monks and wizards of the Jeskai Way see the dragon's cunning as the most important tool, scrutinizing the self and understanding the greater world around them. The sign of cunning is made manifest in the eye of the dragon, a piercing gaze witness to all, comprehending much, and offering focus to its adherents. This symbol is frequently displayed in rune marks, on clothing and weapons, and in titles bearing significance, such as Warden of the Eye. The Jeskai Way is a loosely affiliated coalition of isolated redoubts, carved into stone, and serene monastic fortresses poised on the shores of misty, secluded lakes, dotting Tarkir's rugged landscape. Within each lies an independent school where masters teach eager pupils unique methods of introspection, meditation, martial arts, and studies of script. Though each school may differ from another in the stresses of import, in battle tactics and strategy, they all share the same desire for enlightenment, a goal that can only be reached following one of infinitely circuitous paths along the way. Each is likely to end dead as it is to continue. For the Jeskai, supreme achievement and elevation are constant. The way is endless, with no signposts and few directions. It's ever-changing. Most cannot hope to grasp enlightenment in several lifetimes, but it's the discipline ingrained in its pursuit that is the true strength of the clan. We hear of discipline's role in the flavor text of Jeskai Student. Discipline is the first pillar of the Jeskai Way. Each member of the clan trains in a weapon, perfecting its use over a lifetime. And again in Leaping Master. Strength batters down barriers. Discipline ignores them. The Jeskai clan is one of mystics, monks, and martial artists. They are thought of as serene masters, composed of mind and fleet of body, who spend their days pondering life's deeper meaning. Their pursuit of knowledge, their obsession with understanding, grants Jeskai a powerful connection to blue mana. As the color of the mind, insight, and intelligence, blue marries well Jeskai ideals of enlightenment and perseverance. Its sages rely on the power of blue to reach meditative states profound in depth. Its scholars and scribes use its preserves to document Tarkir's history. Its warriors and wizards utilize blue's strength in illusion and deception for misdirection or to slink through hostile fortresses, seen in Jeskai Infiltrator. The way is supplemented by ties to white mana ley lines, which pave the brick of enlightenment's path. White mana values order, which strongly influences the Jeskai pillar ideal of discipline. Without rigid structure, without taming of body and mind, an adherent would fall to base instincts and perfidious nature. Central to white mana is a sense of community and relinquishing the self. Jeskai schools offer solidarity to those of like mind, and to truly embrace the way, any sense of individualism or conceit must be sacrificed. The self-restraint in white heightens blue mana's insight for practitioners, which we can read in the flavor text of Erase. Truth is hard enough to see, let alone understand. We must remove all distractions to find clarity. The calculus and strategic planning of white molds pliable students into graceful and deadly warriors who have, through countless hours of disciplined practice, mastered martial arts to perfection. Their poise is on display in Graceblade Artisan and Lotus Eye Mystics. Contrasting greatly to white and blue is the hot temper and impulsiveness of red mana. On its surface, red mana opposes the established doctrine of enlightenment central to the Jeskai Way. It contradicts order, embraces individuality, and lives in the fast moments of the present. But this dynamic swirling of combative forces works in the clan's favor to produce a culture more resilient and multifaceted. Red represents raw emotion necessary to stir blue and white into action. For what is contemplation without fulfillment? What is planning without execution? Jeskai are by no means at the mercy of their urges. Through discipline, they temper and direct hot passions when necessary, seen in the art and flavor text of Bloodfire Enforcers. Bloodfire practitioners train to focus their rage, building it deep inside themselves until they are ready to release it as a devastating attack. Red mana allows for development of new, chaotic fighting styles that stun enemies and misdirect in blazing flurries of movement. We see this in cards like Cunning Strike and Dragon-style Twins. Red is, however, a constant temptation for the Jeskai. There are moments when it must be embraced, but always with temperance, lest one lose their way on the path. An outcome witnessed in the art and flavor text of Lose Calm, which reads, "A lifetime of discipline, forsaken in a moment of rage." These three colors, blue, the wisdom of mind; white, the discipline of body; red, the impetus of spirit, merge to create a clan whose adherents embody the dragon's cunning. Jeskai are led on Enlightenment's path by Narset, one who has expanded her being and achieved the highest level of existence. She imparts wisdom on those seeking, which we hear in the flavor text of Clever Impersonator. Our own selves are the greatest obstacles to enlightenment. Through her counsel, Jeskai practices are made, and in her calculated action the clan survives tumultuous machinations, impressed upon them by other khans. The melding of these colors and the Jeskai's mastery of mystical and martial arts is highlighted in the clan's prowess mechanic. It represents the warrior's ability to strike suddenly and unexpectedly, the sage's preference to draw strength from spellcraft and confound. This makes for a graceful, serene, and exceedingly deadly combatant, for which the Jeskai are known. Unlike other clans who claim central fortresses and dominate contiguous regions of the landscape, the Jeskai Way are a collection of isolated, disjointed monastic houses, loosely tied by bonds of shared ideals. Most often, their retreats are hewn from wind-battered mountaintops, effortlessly integrated into the craggy stone, or else erected by serene pools whose reflective waters stimulate prognostication. Several such monasteries dot all of Tarkir, but the largest and most influential is the Sage-Eye Stronghold. This domineering mountain redoubt acts as Narset's seat, a meeting place for Jeskai elders, and a bastion of meditative study, supplemented by an impressive collection of arcane scrolls. Sage-Eye is the voice of the Jeskai. Its Aven messengers carry dispatches far, as seen in Jeskai Windscout, whose flavor text reads, "They range from Sage-Eye's stronghold to the farthest reaches of Tarkir." Other Jeskai fortresses possess unique views, scholarship, and fighting styles molded by the minds of their elders. Those of the Riverwheel Fortress contemplate on still waters, and when threatened, stir it to a foaming roil and inundate foes. Their fascination with and control over water can be seen in the illustration of Water Whirl, whose text reads, "Be as water, untamed and unheld, yet inexorably flowing towards a greater goal." Riverwheel adepts imitate water's graceful flow, quickness in foot and sure of step, which is on display in the flavor text of Riverwheel Aerialists. Adepts of the Riverwheel Stronghold can run through rain and never get wet. Masters use the raindrops as stepping stones. Followers of the Bloodfire School embrace the sweltering heat of Tarkir's ancient Hellkite and channel raw emotion into focused action. They endure physical pains to sharpen their minds, seen in the art and flavor text of Bloodfire Mentor. The adept underwent months of preparation to withstand pain, until he was finally ready to receive the Efreet Master's teachings. The beautiful martial dance of this proud school is illustrated in Dragon-style Twins. Adherents of the Lotus Path, meanwhile, draw on white mana strength through conviction and community. As the flavor text of Sage of the Inward Eye relates, no one petal claims beauty for the lotus, just as no one individual can claim superiority over the whole. Those who follow the path of the lotus turn inward to predict future outcomes, which heightens their skills in combat. Seen in the illustration of Lotus Eye Mystics, whose flavor text reads, "Every action has a foreseen purpose." Just as the Jeskai embrace myriad paths along the way, so too do they count myriad races among the ranks of their pupils and masters. The volcanic Fire Rim is the native land of Tarkir's Ifriti, fiery elemental humanoids perfidious in nature. Many travel to Jeskai monasteries to temper strong passions and innate caprice. Many Ifrit can be found within the Bloodfire Fortress. Spiritual, blue-skinned and horned Jinn also number among Jeskai's more ponderous followers. Jinn seek enlightenment through mental clarity and communicate strongly with the elements of water and air, granting them powerful basis in blue mana. Inscrutable, Jeskai Jinn oversee the documentation and preservation of Tarkir's knowledge, seen in Monastery Loremaster and Warden of the Eye, whose text reads, "The Wardens guard the sacred documents of Tarkir's history, though they are forbidden to read the words." Their mastery of elemental magic is illustrated in cards such as Whirlwind Adept and Mistfire Weaver. Unlike other planes where Jinn are of a corporeal form and capricious faculty, those on Tarkir are more physical than mystical. The high mountain peaks are a natural home to the Aven birdfolk, whose aeries sit closely by Jeskai encampments. This close association swells the clan's ranks with these winged aerialists, whose grace in flight is matched by their swift strikes. The Aven skill is given to us in the flavor text of Sage Eye Harrier, which reads, "These winged warriors meditate in flight, tracing mandalas in the clouds." Another winged mountain race has been adopted by the Jeskai for its temerity and hardiness. Massive mantis dwell within the rocky crags and have become bonded to the skilled monks who ride them into battle. Stealthy, composed and lethal, the mantis is nature's manifestation of Jeskai ideals, which we hear in the text of High Spire Mantis. Its wings produce a high-pitched, barely audible whirring sound in flight. Only Jeskai masters are quiet enough to hear one coming. While the card Mantis Rider illustrates the lethal poise possessed in Jeskai warriors who mount such creatures. For the Jeskai, the time of Khans has passed into impossible myth, this branch of reality severed by the actions of Sarkhan Vol. Their fate, much like that of the other clans, has been reforged, their new reality dominated by soaring, voracious and savage dragons no longer extinct. With the invigoration of dragon storms on Tarkir, the clans found themselves not merely engaged in intrigue amongst another, but in a struggle for existence against rapacious, implacable dragon broods. With the subsequent Khanfall, the clans were swallowed and subsumed by draconic overlords, their ultimate fates dependent on the whims of such powerful creatures. The warriors of ancient Jeskai found their monasteries besieged by the swift cunning of Ojutai and his brood. These dragons rely on meditation, foresight, and countermagic to win the field before battle even ensues. But just as all dragons, their calm countenance can quickly rile to mass devastation. Shu Yun, leader of the Jeskai, attempted in a desperate collaboration with the other Khans to destroy the rising dragon lords. He was, however, betrayed and murdered, an action that hastened the Khanfall and led to the dissolution of the clans. The Jeskai were especially despised and hunted by Ojutai for their ghost fire warriors. These dragon slayers fought with valiant grace using the colorless magic imparted upon them by Ugin the spirit dragon. But their isolated fortresses and dwindling numbers couldn't hold out. They were all killed or captured and summarily executed. The Jeskai libraries were ransacked, every mention of the clans burned in dragonfire. From the ashes, Jeskai survivors and their descendants were integrated into Ojutai's clan. In this new form, red mana has been lost. Its temperament, its invigoration of fiery independence, represents a threat to the Elder Dragon's rule. The clan is therefore more ponderous, studious and servile to their draconic masters. All humanoids are beneath even the lowliest of Ojutai dragons. They are students who ingratiate themselves to their winged mentors in hopes of gleaning wisdom. In this dynamic, Ojutai sits as the great teacher, impressing valuable lessons onto the minds of his pupils, which we see in the illustration of Skywise Teachings and Great Teacher's Decree. while the flavor text of Dragon's Eye Sentry gives glimpse into the import carried by Ojutai's word. Even the humblest guard of Ojutai's strongholds ponders the puzzles of the great teacher's lessons. The Ojutai view the dragon as elegance and insight made manifest. They embrace meditation and study with industry in an effort to experience a fraction of what is possessed by the great teacher. The flavor text of Dance of the Skywise highlights such reverence. The Ojutai believe in the Great Wheel. Those who best serve the Dragon Lord are destined to be reborn as dragons. In battle, Ojutai are composed warriors, exhibiting grace of movement, demonstrative of rigid practice they endure. We see such warriors in Ojutai exemplars, and in the flavor text of Battle Mastery, which states, "There is elegance in all the Ojutai do, even their killing." Jeskai, a name that in one reality symbolized contemplative repose, in another a name that has been stripped from the histories and lost to memory. This clan seeks enlightenment through various paths along the way. They are a people of constancy, a source of conviction for vacillating minds and wayward souls. Their isolation stimulates inward thinking. Their community stimulates wise support. They are a people of grace, of swiftness and poise. As light as the breeze, as deep as the azure lakes, as sharp as the mountain peaks, they embody all aspects of the dragon's cunning. All who cross their path respect the way and the name Jeskai. Tarkir, a plane of tumultuous violence. Its history has been written and rewritten, forged in dragonfire and cast in blood. It has at times been a land of soaring winged beasts, at times a land of duplicitous khans, but always a land roiled by ambition's consequence. In a time now lost, Tarkir's dragons died out, and from their bones arose 5 great clans, whose khans carved the plain with fortunes shifting as desert sands. Conflict was constant between them, connivance rare. The khans moved against another to claim land and glory. Their character, their conviction, and their reverence towards the ancient form of the dragon shaped the khanates under their rule, bestowing upon each clan a distinct worldview, unique strengths, and unforeseen weaknesses. One such clan embraced the dragon's speed, symbolized by its beating wings. Swiftness reigned supreme in the dangerous, desolate steppes within which they roam. Aggression is their language, blood their currency, victory in battle or glorious death their creed. They prowl the wastes for sustenance. Their fierce warriors raid deep into other clans' boundaries in pursuit of riches and renown. They strike without warning. They rain a hellstorm of arrows from above, and the thunderous rumble of fire and hoofbeats announces their presence across the plateau. They are implacable, incendiary, irresistible. They are the Mardu Horde. Though they live in a time that has not seen dragons for ages, the clans of Tarkir are exposed to their memories through ossified remains and distant wisdom. Each clan views the dragon as a sublime being and fully embraces one aspect of its character. The Mardu Horde reveres the dragon's speed and relies on its swiftness, felt in its massive wings to survive. They are a loosely affiliated conglomeration of disparate war chiefs and cunning warriors that range across Tarkir's desolate steppes. These bands of nomadic fighters, shepherds and laypeople, are shaped by the harsh reality of their environs. Rocky crags, barren wastes offer little nourishment, so Mardu have learned to live off the land through constant motion. The earth is fickle. Who can predict when next the rains will come? Enemy warbands lurk beyond the horizon. Life's a constant struggle made tolerable through alacrity and adaptability. Mardu have no permanent residence. Their horde is their home. They travel only with necessities, unloading themselves of the heavy burden of niceties enjoyed by other clans. What emerges are a lean people, forged in the crucible of difficulty, with an understanding of life's temperamentality. This sentiment is passed in the flavor text of Nomad Outpost. Only the weak imprison themselves behind walls. We live free under the wind, and our freedom makes us strong. The Mardu are deeply connected to red mana, specifically its aspects of speed, freedom, emotion, and unpredictability. They pride themselves with the haste imbued through the dragon's wings. No steed is faster, no arrow strikes sure, no blade cuts cleaner. We hear of their overwhelming pace in the art and flavor text of Rush of Battle, which reads, "The Mardu charge reflects the dragon's speed and its hunger." And their aggressive urges are symbolized in the clan's raid mechanic. This ability favors lightning strikes impassioned by bloodlust and rewards such attacks with the bounties of a successful battle. Raiding is a core tenet to the Mardu way. Without struggle and dominance, they would be claimed by the steppes. Their nature is reflective in the native gore swine, and a contemplative warrior states, "The Mardu are like the gore swine. We are wild, hunt in packs, and rarely clean the blood from our blades." The temerity of red is fueled by the ambitious self-fulfillment of black mana. Death is abundant on the plateau. It surrounds Mardu constantly. It's integral to their nature. For a Mardu warrior, nothing is so honorable or desirous as a heroic death surrounded by countless foes. And one's own achievement in life is extolled by the death caused. We see this in the illustration of Mardu's Skull Hunter, and the clan's relentless aggression is given in the flavor text of Blood-Soaked Champion, which reads, "Death is merely another foe the Mardu will overcome." A tempering force for the Mardu is found in the honor and ethics derived from white mana. Though victory is of the utmost import, though survival imperative, a strict code guides the Horde. They detest what is cowardly, they loathe dishonorable combat. The Mardu also rely on community, they thrive in large numbers. They're not called the Horde for lack of members. White mana offers unity between Horde chiefs. It harnesses their bloodlust and directs it in collective purpose. We see this on display in Mardu Horde Chief, whose flavor text reads, "The Horde grows with each assault." The delicate balance of these three colors is epitomized within the Mardu Khan, an orc warrior of great renown, whose ire and whose skill in battle know no equal. Zurgo Helmsmasher rules through example and intimidation. He stirs passions, rallies morale, and crushes dissent with fear. We're witness to his peerless mastery in cards like Utter End and Despise, whose flavor text reads, "You have returned from fire, traitor. This time I will see you leave as ashes." Mardu achieve victory on the steppes through agile feints and counter moves, precise surgical strikes, and sheer strength of force. On the open plain, two things make them unstoppable and ensure plunder abounds. The first is their mastery of the saddle and premier horsemanship. While steering beasts fleet of foot, they're able to outpace routed armies, divert forces at a moment's notice, and ambush from nowhere. Cards like Ride Down and Valley Dasher highlight a Mardu warrior's agility, the flavor text of which reads, "Mardu riders' greatest fear is that a battle might end before their weapons draw blood." But horses are not all that is ridden into battle. The bellowing saddle brute and the Mardu rough rider showcase large beasts of war saddled and ridden into the fray to crush enemy front lines. The second masterful skill possessed by most Mardu that functions in tandem with riding is their inimitable archery. Unparalleled with the bow, Mardu archers can pierce the heart with a surgeon's accuracy while at full gallop more than 100 meters away. This is illustrated in the art of Killshot, the text of which reads, "Mardu archers are trained in Dakla, the way of the bow. They never miss their target no matter how small, how fast, or how far away." We see the finest craft on display in Heartpiercer bow, and it's wielded to perfection by a mounted warrior in Mardu Heartpiercer. When hundreds of such fighters are amassed, the result is devastation, swift victory. The culmination of these skills is beautifully illustrated in Arrowstorm. First the thunder, then the rain. Though Mardu are often seen as thoughtless berserkers, raving desecrators with little concern for life or future, they have developed out of necessity a strict warrior's code and a hierarchy within which Horde society functions. Three simple tenets, dictated by the Edicts of Elagra, the first Mardu Khan, form the warrior's code, the foundation for harmonious living. To conquer is to eat. This tenet symbolizes the need for nomadic migration, for taking by force what is required for survival. On the steppes, where little is given freely, Mardu must possess through conquest the sustaining riches of battle. This edict is the flavor text of Raiders' spoils, but it posits a reason for bloodshed and violence. Through this proclamation, brutal, pointless killing is abhorred. Need not fancy drive thoughts of conquest. To rule is to bleed. The second edict highlights where Mardu chieftains and khans derive their authority. The Horde leads by example. Only the most skilled, most ruthless warriors can claim primacy, and through such they maintain control. Mardu Khans are measured and revered not just by the blood of enemies spilled to water the chalked earth, but also by the blood they have given in combat for the Horde. Wounds are sigils, scars, badges of honor. This instills a fiery passion for combat heard in the flavortext of War Flare. No sun or fire can warm my blood quite like a war flare. Victory or death. The Third Edict bans cowardice, decries retreat, leaves no room for loss. What makes the Horde so devastating is their frenzied attack, their relentless assault. Retreat is not once thought. Morale is never broken. They are berserkers whose blades fall silent only when they or their foe lies dead. This is seen in the card Alesha Who Smiles at Death, the flavortext of which succinctly states, "Greet death with sword in hand." And again in Arcbond, Alesha says, "If you must die today, make your death worthy of legend." Mardu society is a meritocracy determined by deeds achieved and riches gained. Zurgo stands unopposed as the domineering Khan of the Horde. Below him sit the Horde chiefs and elders comprising his chieftain circle. They have the most military experience, martial prowess, and blatant ambitions. Each Horde chief relies on hundreds of elite warriors. For the Mardu, this caste is the bedrock of society, what many aspire to, what is revered and called upon to execute duty. They possess the best arms and armaments, they maintain several mounts, and they are trained in brutally efficient combat, but not all warriors are equal. Skill coincides with spoils. Younger Green Mardu lack mounts or weapons, as well as a war name. These soft heels must undergo a rite of blood and conquest by achieving brutal acts of honor on the field. Once an enemy is slain, a Mardu is granted their war name. We see this ritual in War Name Aspirant. Outside of the warriors exists their relatives, retainers, slaves, and the lay people of the clan. Though not as celebrated, these lower members tend livestock, craft weapons and wear, and sustain the day-to-day. The Mardu are a heterogeneous mixture of various steppe cultures and races, bound by duty and need. Humans comprise a large contingent of versatile warriors both mounted and on foot, skilled at range as well as in vicious melee. They can be found in all echelons of society, from peasant to chieftain, and in connection with all colors of mana. The humanoid, hulking, aggressive, and vile race of orcs are plentiful in the Horde, where their innate bloodlust and tendency for brutality are lauded qualities cherished by the clan. Zurgo is their most prominent member, securing for himself the position of Khan. Many orcs of the Mardu have a close association to Black Mana's ruthless ambition and depravity. Their dark nature is on display in cards like Battle Brawler and Brutal Horde Chief. A more diminutive but no less numerous race of scurrying, furry goblins also claim membership to the Horde. These tiny creatures embody the sting, the reckless glee and chaos of red mana. Goblin berserkers take to the field in droves, slicing feet while foes are preoccupied elsewhere, seen in Ankleshanker and Goblin Heel Cutter. They are deployed as surveyors, instigators, and agitators. The flavortext of Mardu Scout reads, "The Mardu all enjoy war, but only the goblins make a game of it." Mardu don't suffer goblins without consequence. They are a nuisance to be tolerated, but many in their ranks hold no love for goblins, which we can infer in the flavortext of Hordeling Outburst. Leave no scraps, lest you attract pests. The various Mardu races and their beasts of war create a maelstrom of ill-contained rage, energy, and bloodlust unleashed on the steppes to devastating effect. They are a scourge to all in their way. For the Mardu, the time of Khans has passed into impossible myth, this branch of reality severed by the actions of Sarkhan Vol. Their fate, much like that of the other clans, has been reforged. Their new reality, dominated by soaring, voracious, and savage dragons, no longer extinct. With the invigoration of dragon storms on Tarkir, the clans found themselves not merely engaged in intrigue amongst another, but in a struggle for existence against rapacious, implacable dragon broods. With the subsequent Khanfall, the clans were swallowed and subsumed by draconic overlords, their ultimate fates dependent on the whims of such powerful creatures. The Mardu Horde held no great battle, no heroic struggle. Defeat and integration into the dragon broods came subtly. Kulagan, elder dragon of the lightning-swift brood, was disinterested in enslavement or conquest of the Mardu. She didn't attack with intent of extinction, nor did she try to lead them. This didn't, however, engender peace between Mardu and the dragon. Rather, the Horde and Brood saw another as natural competition in the struggle to survive on Tarkir's inhospitable steppes. Alesha, then Khan of the Mardu, saw the dragons as equals and admired their ruthless speed, their graceful agility. The Edicts of Alagra outlined Mardu ethics, so naturally the fiercest warrior, the strongest leader, the most punishing ruler, rightfully belonged to Dragon Lord Kolaghan herself. Old banners fell and standards grew tattered as Mardu chiefs voluntarily submitted themselves to the awesome power of the dragon. In time, however, the Mardu code was forgotten, the edicts banned, the position of Khan abolished. Kolaghan assumed greater power, brutally crushing any trace of disobedience. At last their transformation was complete. The Mardu horde ceased, its members now number among Kolaghan's brood. The old Mardu are reflective of their new leader. They are fiercer, more aggressive, brutal and self-serving. Their codes have degenerated into a blood-crazed frenzy, and the community they once shared has dissolved. This is symbolized in the loss of white mana for humanoid members of Kolaghan. The clan fully embraces the dragon's speed and her lightning. They channel bolts of electricity to stun or astonish, seen in cards like Kolaghan Forerunners and Stormsinger. Overwhelming agility is apparent in the dash mechanic on several cards, referring to Kolaghan warriors' ability to strike without warning. Their haste is twofold. First, the crave, the lust for blood, boils and impassions warriors before combat, which we hear in the flavor text of Kolaghan Aspirant. She answers the call of the crave, the desire for battle stated only by bloodshed. The second is because their Dragon Lord's ire knows not friend from foe. They fight swiftly to stay ahead of the frenzy stoked within Kolaghan's heart. This is given to us in the flavor text of Kolaghan Skirmisher. Kolaghan's army rushes from kill to kill, desperate to avoid the dragon's wrath. Mardu, a name that evokes fear in those against it and stokes mania in those for it. The horde, like a ravenous swarm of locusts, descends upon Tarkir's steppes and leaves only ruin in its wake. It's a clan of hardy, adaptable, and peerless warriors, whose life is conflict, and whose home is wherever the saddle leads them. They are aggressive, at times heartless, but ruled by a code centered on martial achievement and bloody honor. They kill to live, raid to resupply, and conquer from necessity. As swift as a bolt of lightning, as ruinous as the following thunder, they represent the wings of the dragon. Indefatigable and unstoppable, they are the Mardu horde. Tarkir, a plane of tumultuous violence. Its history has been written and rewritten, forged in dragonfire and cast in blood. It's at times been a land of soaring winged beasts, at times a land of duplicitous Khans, but always a land roiled by ambition's consequence. In a time now lost, Tarkir's dragons died out, and from their bones arose 5 great clans whose Khans carved the plain, with fortunes shifting as desert sands. Conflict was constant between them, connivance rare. The Khans moved against another to claim land and glory. Their character, their conviction, and their reverence towards the ancient form of the dragon shaped the Khanates under their rule, bestowing upon each clan a distinct worldview, unique strengths, and unforeseen weaknesses. One such clan embraced the dragon's endurance, symbolized in its impenetrable scale. This clan, comprised of disparate family houses, is nonetheless united. Bound by ties of duty and honor that transcends any boundary, they are a desert people, hardened into diamond by the rough sands of the shifting wastes, polished by the tempestuous winds into a lustrous beacon of civilization in a land otherwise barren. They are masters of siegecraft, erecting mobile fortresses, carving impregnable bastions that withstand any storm. They are unbreakable warriors guided in combat and politics by ancestral spirits they revere. They provide stability, safety, security to the dunes that shifts as the fortunes of the Khans rise and fall. They are the Abzan houses. Though they live in a time that has not seen dragons for ages, the clans of Tarkir are exposed to their memories through ossified remains and distant wisdom. Each clan views the dragon as a sublime being and fully embraces one aspect of its character. The Abzan houses are a confederation of families bound together by blood, honor, and need to endure where no other clan would, deep within the sweltering windswept dunes of Tarkir's shifting wastes. Endure, a word, an action the Abzan so perfectly personify, symbolic of the dragon's scale. Like the scale, they are impervious to the hostile desert, the dangers of which are apparent in the card Sandblast, whose flavor text reads, "In the shifting wastes, more are killed by sand than by steel." Like the scale that protects the dragon's body, the Abzan dwell behind protective battlements, tall watchtowers, and sturdy screen walls on display in the card Dazzling Ramparts. Its text reveals the sanctuary such structures offer. When Anafenza holds court under the first tree, the gates of Marek are sealed. No safer place exists in all of Tarkir. But for the Abzan, the scale is more than an intangible symbol. It can be felt and seen in the scaled armor and hardened shields supplied to House warriors. They are a strong reminder that what endures, survives. The Abzan are deeply seated in white mana and its aspects of unity, duty, honor, solidarity. This clan learned long ago that individual ambitions succumb to the desert. Self-preservation is only possible through community and cooperation. Harshness of environs has bred a clan that sees the benefit of the one through actions that enable the many. Company is so integral to the Abzan way of life that thoughts of solitude, of isolation, are nightmares to be avoided at all cost. This sentiment is heard in the flavor text of Duneblast, which reads, "The Abzan turn to this spell only as a last resort, for its inevitable result is what they most dread, to be alone." White mana offers protection and bolsters forces. Abzan armies are as numerous as the desert sands. Their blades are sharpened by battle, their armor brilliant in the blinding sun. We see this on display in cards like Abzan Battle Priest and Feet of Resistance, whose text reads, "Dragons are extinct on Tarkir, but Abzan magic still emulates their endurance." White mana is supplemented by green, which is at first a peculiar color of mana to be found in a land largely devoid of natural abundance. Behind the dazzling walls, each Abzan fortress is a resplendent oasis in the desert, bursting with vegetation and sustenance, which we see in the card Sheltered Area. Green shares with white a sense of selflessness, a swallowing of pride for the greater good all Abzan houses exemplify. Green also prides itself on resilience, strength, and endurance. As the clan is shaped by the desert, so too is their resolve bolstered, which we see in cards like Dragonscale Boon. Their reliance on war beasts and pack animals for times of violence also lends the Abzan a strong connection to green mana. Altruism and reverence towards the natural world are tempered by the presence of black mana. Ambition stains the Abzan court, whose families show a united front against foes, but also partake in intrigues amongst another for superiority. Abzan most reflect black mana in not only the embrace of death, but its worship. Spirits bridge the gap of expiration and link living Abzan houses to their ancestors long past. This death magic is harnessed by the clan to gain strength, as seen in Kin Tree Invocation, or to leech life from enemies, highlighted in Ancestral Vengeance, whose flavor text reads, "The defenses of the Abzan extend well beyond the walls of their fortresses." When combined, the colors of white, green, and black engender within the Abzan a culture that is honest and just, reverent towards nature and the life hereafter, and brutally ruthless for the greater good. Their endurance in the shifting wastes is symbolized in the Outlast mechanic, which grants incremental strength to survive future hardship. We see this in the ability to gain +1/+1 counters and to impart other beneficial effects. They are led by the energetic Anafenza, and the Abzan's durability is summarized perfectly in Abzan Banner. Stone to endure, roots to remember. For the Abzan, one word more than any other is weighed by hallowed significance, directs their actions, and acts as the foundational bedrock of the clan. That word is family. The Abzan itself is composed of several great houses, individual families whose members work seamlessly within to bring great honor to the house, and who cooperate with other families to promote clan welfare. In the harsh desert where nothing but death is abundant, family offers a haven of protection, support, community for one who would otherwise perish. The notion of family ties and blood bonds connect all Abzan who call another siblings regardless of heredity. As trust and loyalty are bred from family lines, any breach is seen as a heinous betrayal to both house and clan. The Abzan hold dutiless and deceptive members in utter contempt, which we hear in the flavor text of Merciless Executioner. He enjoys his work, for he sees only the worst Abzan criminals, those who betray their own kin. More grave than death for a clan member is to be disowned by one's house. This severs them from security and support, leaving them in vulnerable, miserable isolation. This we see in the card Disowned Ancestor, whose flavortext reads, "Long after death, the spirits of the disowned continue to seek redemption among their Abzan kin." While disownment is saved for the most vile, adoption is utilized to welcome promising orphans into the house and is viewed as a high honor. They are called Krumar, and they work with industry to serve the family. We see them in Krumar Bonkin, whose text highlights this transition. The Abzan replaced my savagery with a noble heritage. I would give my life for my house. Just as family is the bedrock for the clan, the Abzan are the stable foundation of Tarkir, policing borders and ensuring peace amongst other clans. The Salt Road crisscrosses the shifting wastes, and trade routes extend to the plains' far reaches. Caravans bring exotic wares while armed patrols maintain safety. We see this in Salt Road Quartermaster and Salt Road Patrol. The meandering paths merge in Abzan's capital city of Arashin, where Anafenza presides over the Amber Throne. It's guarded by the impregnable fortress of Mer Ek, on stone walls of which sit deadshot archers and dangerous assassins like the Nightblade. Several citadels stud the wastes from which formidable Abzan garrisons patrol to protect their house, illustrated in Secure the Wastes, whose text reads, "The shifting wastes provide our clan eternal protection. It is our duty to return the favor." The root of family grows deep. Its trunk is strong. Its branches extend beyond the physical and connect those living to ancestors of the past long dead. This concept manifests in the reverent kin tree prominent in Abzan houses. Kin trees are sacred plants whose growth is fostered by fallen members of the family. When life ends, an Abzan's ashes are fed to the tree and their name is inscribed on its branches. This mystical rite binds the spirit to the kin tree, where it remains to offer guidance, benevolence, and peace for future generations. This sentiment is passed in the illustration of Fruit of the First Tree, which shows an ethereal person passing from life and reads, "I will be the ancestor my descendants call upon for aid. On that day, I will take up my sword for my family once more." In the card Retribution of the Ancients, we see the power that invoked spirits possess as they guard living house members. With such blessed sanctity bestowed upon the kin tree, it's in Abzan's highest duty, supreme honor, to guard it with their life. This duty is typically given to the firstborn in a house. We see their solemn station in Warden of the First Tree and Kin Tree Warden, whose seriousness in his charge is heard in the flavor text. "The amber of the tree and the blood of my veins are the same." The concept of family supersedes all boundaries tangible and intangible. The Abzan houses are host to many races, all united in purpose, which we see illustrated in the card Incremental Growth. Humans are the most prevalent race, stationed at all levels of society and adaptable to the needs of the clan as warriors, priests, and advisors. Tarkir's unique houndfolk, called Ainok, are native to the shifting wastes. They are hardened survivalists who have managed to thrive in the hostile desert. Their endurance so astonished the Abzan that they were joyfully adopted into the family, which is relayed in the flavortext of Dragonscale Boon. When we were lost and weary, the Ainok showed us how to survive. They have earned the right to call themselves Abzan, and to wear the scale. Ainok are scouts and guides for Abzan patrols, fierce soldiers, and gamekeepers for the clan's siege behemoths seen in Abzan Beastmaster. As mentioned, spirits are deeply connected to the Abzan way, and offer protective boons to their descendants, seen in the card Abzan Ascendancy. Many orcs also number among Abzan ranks. This race of sturdy, physically imposing creatures is a product of adoption after battle. Most all orcs are fostered as Krumar, but this often fills them with a dedication that far outstrips a native clansman. We hear the unyielding Krumar's story in its flavor text. "The man whom I call father killed the orc who sired me, offering his world and his blade in return." Abzan are supplemented in battle by a menagerie of war beasts. Massive siege rhinos and barely domesticated battlefront Krushak tear through enemy defenses, while indefatigable elephants and mastodons are used as pack beasts, often carrying entire bastions, as is the case in Ivory Tusk Fortress and Map the Wastes. the Abzan war machine is truly devastating. For the Abzan, the time of Khans has passed into impossible myth, this branch of reality severed by the actions of Sarkhan Vol. Their fate, much like that of the other clans, has been reforged, their new reality dominated by soaring, voracious, and savage dragons no longer extinct. With the invigoration of dragon storms on Tarkir, the clans found themselves not merely engaged in intrigue amongst another, but in a struggle for existence against rapacious, implacable dragon broods. With the subsequent Khanfall, the clans were swallowed and subsumed by draconic overlords, their ultimate fates dependent on the whims of such powerful creatures. A violent maelstrom not even the Abzan could endure descended upon the shifting wastes and whipped the sands into frenzy. From it emerged the Dragon Lord Dromoka and her brood, who bathed the land in dragon fire. They persecuted and slaughtered the great houses with such malice that the Abzan fell to the brink of oblivion. How could such noble creatures the clan saw as fortitude manifest carry out such atrocity? The Khan, Dagadar, learned the impetus behind Dromoka's attacks stemmed from his clan's ancestral worship. The Dragon Lord abhorred the death magic surrounding Abzan kin trees as anathema to the natural order, and her brood worked tirelessly to excoriate this dark stain. Dagadar acted with haste to avoid complete destruction of his clan, outlawing the practice of ancestral worship, burning kin trees and killing all who opposed the decrees. A contingent of true Abzan followed their last Khan, Rehan, but isolated and vulnerable, suffered death for their beliefs. The rest were slowly integrated into Dromoka's placated brood and lost their connection to black mana. In the aftermath of Dromoka's purge, her brood sought not to subjugate and rule prisoners through fear, but through intimate benevolence and compassion. We hear this in the flavor text of Arishan Sovereign. Dromoka dragons foster trust among their subjects, while the other clans must spend their time quelling rebellion. Her tact of deploying trust and community proves fruitful and creates a clan where dragons lead their servants to united greatness. The strength of the bond is heard in the flavor text of Dromoka Warrior. Dromoka has regard for the humans who serve under her. In return for her protection, they obey with steadfast loyalty, acting as weapons for her and her Scale Lords against the other clans. And again we hear it in Dragon Lord Dromoka herself. Dromoka's followers forsake blood ties so that they may join a greater family. For their services, members of the clan are given gifts of dragon scale, the highest honor, an accolade symbolic of endurance and sacrifice, seen in cards like Scale Blessing and Dromoka's Gift. These laurels are exemplified in the bolster mechanic, which imparts strength on the meek, honor on the righteous. Without the corrupting stain of black mana's ambition, Clan Dromoka is stalwart in community, shared growth, and pure values. But not all is peace. A secret sect continued to worship the Abzan spirits of old and foment resentment against the Dragon Lord. They plant kin trees in hidden locations, offer their service, and seek guidance. This is seen in Echoes of the Kin Tree, whose flavor text reads, "Even after Anafenza was executed, many secretly maintain their beliefs in the old ways." Abzan, a name synonymous with family, duty, honor, and above all else, endurance. They carved an oasis within the inhospitable sands, thriving where all else died. Their houses provided stability, their armies ensured peace, their very memory evoking the dragon's scale. But they have been consigned to myth, forgotten to history, usurped by the Dragon Lords. Their kin trees burnt, their spirits no longer entreated. There are some who yet remain that remember the dogged resilience, what it means to be Abzan. Tarkir, a plane of tumultuous violence. Its history has been written and rewritten, forged in dragonfire and cast in blood. It has at times been a land of soaring, winged beasts, at times a land of duplicitous Khans, but always a land roiled by ambition's consequence. In a time now lost, Tarkir's dragons died out, and from their bones arose 5 great clans whose Khans carved the plain, with fortunes shifting as desert sands. Conflict was constant between them, connivance rare. The Khans moved against another to claim land and glory. Their character, their conviction, and their reverence towards the ancient form of the dragon shaped the Khanates under their rule, bestowing upon each clan a distinct worldview, unique strengths and unforeseen weaknesses. One such clan embraced the dragon's ruthlessness, symbolic of its sharp fang. Within the humid, steaming jungles, impenetrable to outside eyes, this clan slinks and schemes. Their dark ambitions fuel darker machinations. They probe their enemies from a distance, scanning for weakness before plunging a dagger deep in the back. They aren't bound by honor, unfettered by duty. They do all in their power to seize more, and their resources are immeasurable. They dig through the past and beneath the earth to acquire forbidden knowledge. Masters of undeath, experts of assassination. They are the Sultai Brood. Though they live in a time that's not seen dragons for ages, the clans of Tarkir are exposed to their memories through ossified remains and distant wisdom. Each clan views the dragon as a sublime being and fully embraces one aspect of its character. The Sultai Brood revere the dragon's fang and embody the sharp edge of ruthless greed. They occupy a fetid, overgrown tract of Tarkir's rainforest, which blends seamlessly into swampland that does well to obscure the intentions of the clan. Stories trickle forth of unbound avarice, tales of a clan obsessed with wealth, fat with surplus, who lays about feeding hedonistic fantasies. They are but a sham veneer that veils the true power wielded by the Sultai. This clan employs intrigue, espionage, and assassination to ruthlessly pursue grand designs. Symbolic of the Fang, Sultai rip through defenses, tear allegiances apart, and devour both body and mind to achieve their goals. Treachery is possessed by all members of the Sultai, which bonds them strongly to black mana present in the Gurmag swamp. From the muck rise terrible zombies and undead horrors the likes of the rotting Mastodon and Gurmag Angler, a massive fish whose text grants insight into the bog's dangers. If everything in the Gurmag swamp hungers for human flesh, what bait could be more effective? The Sultai feed off of this rotten quagmire. As the color of ambition and conceit, black mana is used by the Brood members to further personal schemes. It engenders a sense of cutthroat selfishness and mistrust pervasive amongst the Sultai, which we see in cards like Rakshasa's Secret and Reach of Shadows. Black is also the color of death and profane knowledge. Sultai are master necromancers that animate rotten corpses of those consumed by the Gurmag seen in grave strength, as well as the bodies of fallen enemies on display and empty the pits to swell their ranks. The flavor text of the former reads, "So long as death follows life, the supply lines of the Sultai will never be cut." The shambling undead are used as slaves, warriors, and playthings for vile necromancers. Knowledge, not merely numbers, comes from Sultai death magic. Their mages and scryers read entrails of the deceased through dark rituals to glean wisdom. Their memories empower the Brood, who values insight as much as gold. We see these incantations on display in cards like Karsi Sadist and Rite of the Serpent, whose flavor text reads, "From your death, new life. From your loss, our profit." Black's unabashed pursuit of forbidden insight is furthered by the blue mana ley lines suffusing the Meringue River, a swift flow, the current of which covers many atrocities, as we hear in the flavor text of Meringue River Prowler. The currents of the Meringue wash away both tracks and blood. Blue is the color of contemplation, insight, and consideration. Like black, it's cold and creates a clan of calculating schemers. The Sultai work tirelessly to acquire knowledge and impart it only sparingly. They view it as a tool and commodity to exploit weakness, which we hear in the flavor text of Smoke Teller. See your enemies from 1,000 sides, then you will find 1,000 ways to kill them. Sultai wizards perform unhallowed incantations to reach new levels of understanding, illustrated in Dig Through Time, and then wield such information with a deft hand to gain personal clout at the expense of others. So important to the Sultai is the acquisition of knowledge that they enlist the skills of skullkeepers to preserve the intellect of those recently killed. This is summarized in the text of Sultai Skullkeeper. A skullkeeper is the first to arrive after the palace archers strike down intruders, probing their brains for choice bits of knowledge. Blue also equips the clan with powerful countermagic and spells of concealment utilized by Brood assassins to slip through defenses undetected. The dark scheming and prevalence of necromantic practices are kept in check by the pulsating surges of green mana that emanate from the surrounding Segu jungle. The Segu is a rampant wildscape where all manner of predators stalk the choked forest floor. one of which is depicted in Segu Malar. Green is the color of nature, of life and reverence towards all that is untamed. Sultai do much to upset the natural order of life, but through green mana they've learned to respect nature and exploit its own methods. They are master trackers, capable of navigating the jungle maze and lay traps for interlopers, as seen in Scout the Borders. They gather nature's most potent toxins and distill them into deadly poisons used to coat daggers and arrows. The Sultai command great behemoths into battle or direct their aggression towards foes. These three colors, black, that of greed, blue, that of knowledge, green, that of nature, meld together to create a clan of dubious schemers who pursue knowledge and wealth and who exploit the nature of their environs to secure position. This is embodied in the Naga wizard and leader of the Sultai, Sidisi, Brood Tyrant, who maintains preeminence through intrigue and underhandedness, whose zombie attendants ensure she is in want of nothing. The Sultai brood consists of highly stratified factions that both overtly challenge another in court and covertly backstab, all in pursuit of power. Influence determines status, and treachery ensures safety. Those who rise to the highest peak know that the inevitable fall is swift and decidedly terminal. Theirs is a culture of debauched excess. Pleasure gardens, jungle harems, and gilt palaces symbolize power to the Sultai. All things shimmering command their attention. Avarice and greed rule, which we see illustrated in villainous wealth, and here in the flavor text of Glint. Rakshasa waste no opportunity to display their wealth and power, even in the midst of a sorcerous duel. Ostentatious displays of opulence do well to earn grudging respect from rivals, and to distract from ignoble designs heard in the flavor text of Treasure Cruise. Countless delights drift on the surface, while dark schemes run below. Traps abound within the Sultai brood that engenders a cutthroat selfishness where cooperation is rarely offered and never without stipulations. When Sultai machinations align, their malice is typically directed at other clans that encroach on the Segu jungle. Tolerance for outsiders is slight. Caution is necessary when dealing with Sultai emissaries who possess great skill in diplomatic dialogue to achieve their ends. If thwarted, Sultai aren't above resorting to devious means as seen in typhoid rats released to spread plague among the Abzan. The text reads, "When Tasigur sent his ambassadors to the Abzan outpost, the true envoys were not the Naga, but the infectious rats they carried with them." The brood is haven for all things shambling, slithering, and sinister. A panoply of Tarkir's dark creatures swell Sultai ranks. Like most clans, humans occupy various positions throughout brood society, from mystics to warriors to scheming counselors. A unique race of snakefolk called Naga inhabit Tarkir's steaming jungles, and their members have entered the Sultai fold. Nagas are cold-blooded and fierce. In battle, their sinuous and well-muscled bodies throttle foes or asphyxiate through constriction. At a distance, Naga can hit targets with bolts fired from bows while weaving through the shadowed underbrush, which we see illustrated in Segu Archer and Archers of Karsi. The flavor text of which highlights this race's skill. We think of the Naga as creeping cutthroats, slitherers in the swamps, but they are equally at home in the trees. In court, Naga perfect slithery intrigue to rise to high stations. They are cunning and act as advisors, necromantic scryers, and mystical sages seeking deep wisdom. Karsi Deceiver and Keru Spellsnatcher showcase the magical abilities innate to many of this race. Though they write themselves as draconic descendants, Naga have ancient human ancestry whose forms were twisted after striking demonic bargains to secure power, summarized in the flavor text of Sultai Soothsayer. The Naga of the Sultai brood made deals with dark forces to keep their power. Sidisi and her snakefolk rule the brood absolutely. Another race unique among the Sultai and indigenous to Tarkir's swampy marshes is that of the Rakshasa. These cat demons resemble humanoid tigers in appearance and are possessed of limitless reserves of profane dark magic. They can summon horrors to lay waste to armies. Their magic saps vitality and invigorates them, seen in Rakshasa Death Dealer. They lust for wealth above all else and offer dangerously duplicitous deals to the ambitious, wishing to utilize their power. We hear this perfidiousness in the flavor text of Rakshasa's Secret. The voice of a Rakshasa is soft, its breath sweet, but every word is the murmur of madness. The Sultai owe much to these demons. If not for a deal struck with the Rakshasa, the clan wouldn't possess its significant power. Reliance on these fickle creatures is precarious, and if they were to withdraw their support, the brood would surely collapse. They advise top Sultai leaders and trade in secrets, all while amassing more individual clout. Other demons, the likes of Archfiend of Depravity and Necropolis Fiend, sit deep within overgrown catacombs and trap souls with whispered promises of power. The foundation of the Sultai, from whose tireless labor opulent palaces are erected and leisurely whims are indulged, are the putrid hordes of Tarkir's undead. Zombies, also called Sipsig, fill a vital role of slave in the Sultai brood. Their unquestioning work allows their master the freedom to enjoy hedonistic excess. Many zombies are enemies fallen in battle and given new life by necromancers, heard in the flavortext of shambling attendants. Let the world behold what becomes of those who defy us. Others are rotten decayed corpses of beasts dredged from the endless muck. Sipsig act as warriors, laborers, or attendants to nobles and court. The number of undead one has in retainer is just another in a long line of symbols Sultai use to flaunt power. For the Sultai, the time of Khans has passed into impossible myth, this branch of reality severed by the actions of Sarkhan Vol. Their fate, much like that of the other clans, has been reforged, their new reality dominated by soaring, voracious, and savage dragons, no longer extinct. With the invigoration of dragon storms on Tarkir, the clans found themselves not merely engaged in intrigue amongst another, but in a struggle for existence against rapacious, implacable dragon broods. With the subsequent Khanfall, the clans were swallowed and subsumed by draconic overlords, their ultimate fates dependent on the whims of such powerful creatures. For the schemers of the Sultai brood, death came not through valiant battle, not in sweeping dragonfire, but through cruel manipulation. Tassiger, the Golden Fang, was instigated into offending both the Naga and Rakshasa of the ancient Sultai, who quickly withdrew their support for the clan. They instead ingratiated themselves to Black and Blue aligned Dragon Lord Silumgar and his brood. Without access to such powerful magic, the Sultai fell to Silumgar's predation. Noxious fumes, poisonous breath, and acid rained down upon the disgraced Sultai from above. Within weeks, the resplendent palaces were transformed into necropolises, the wealth plundered and added to Silumgar's opulent hoard. What remained of the Sultai bowed to the Elder Dragon and were incorporated into his brood. The new Silumgar clan reflects the cruelty, cunning, and destruction of their ruler. They have lost access to green mana and grown more powerful in magic offered by black. Silumgar assassins are trained to wield caustic spells and spread pestilence among enemies. Their sorcerers are adept in countermagic and divination, able to thwart or misdirect with ease. Their cold-blooded ambition and severity is apparent in the exploit mechanic. Through sacrifice of a lesser being, their power is multiplied. Clan Silumgar is boastful, avaricious, and vain, but possessed of such lethal cunning that no other clan dare cross them without feeling their venom. Sultai, a name that in one reality represents the pinnacle of depravity and dark excesses, that in another has crumbled from vainglory and been lost to time. Theirs is a clan of death and exploitation, of natural and mystical understanding, of profane wisdom. They exude luxury, they pride themselves on ostentation. Cunning in court and deadly on the field, they are not a clan to be trifled with. As opaque as the Gurmag swamps, as devastating as the Sagu forest, as swift as the Morang River, all who meet them remember the name Sultai. Thanks so much for watching and listening to this video on the Sultai brood, and this wraps up our series exploring the clans of Tarkir. Now I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts on Sidician or Brood, Silumgar and his dragons, as well as suggestions for future videos in the comments below. And if you're a fan of lore and storytelling, be sure to subscribe to the channel, check out the podcast or blog where content is uploaded frequently. I want to thank my amazing supporters over on Patreon who make all of this possible, and I couldn't do it without their fantastic support. If you'd like to become a lore luminary for access to me, a great community, written scripts, and early video drops. Head to patreon.com/thelorbrarians to learn more. Until next time, go forth and explore the lore.